Hey everybody, it's me. So since the last video, I've been thinking about a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, maybe a couple of things I needed to clear up, and some things that I forgot about. So to get started, I wanted to show you this book that I really love. So if you're going to try cooking for the first time, you're probably not going to know what you're doing. I mean, unless you had someone who taught you or you've been watching them cook. So, what do? You look up a recipe on how to cook your meal. Same thing happens when you are learning how to paint. You can find these color mixing recipe books like I have in the upper left hand corner right here. This one in particular I really like. It's by Walter Foster. It gives a little bit of an idea on color theory, why you're mixing, what you are trying to mix, and it also has great color combinations that work together, including flesh tone combinations, which I know a lot of you are really interested in learning how to do. So this is a really inexpensive way to get a jump start on finding the colors for your color palette. So I'm going to open up the book and I'm going to switch over to a wider format so you can see exactly what we are doing. All right, so here's the book, and up in the corner, Walter Foster, Color Mixing Recipes for Oil and Acrylic. So I'm just going to flip it open and show you a little bit of what they have in the book. And one of the things I wanted to clear up was in the last video I talked about shades, which would be white, gray, and black. So in this book, it explains a little bit better about what I was talking about, and it also corrects what I was saying. Shade is when you add black, and tint is when you add white, and tone is when you add gray. So let me move in a little bit closer because I think this is really great. Okay, so when you add white to a color, you're getting a tint, gray, tone, black, shade. But at the bottom here, it shows a really great reference guide, which I think I'm going to test out in my own, is when you add black to a color. So here's our color wheel. When you add black to a color, you also want to add a fleck of the color that is right underneath it for black, and which would be your blue color. Okay, so if you added a little bit of black to your blue-green, you're going to add a little touch of blue also. If you are adding white to your color, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to add a little bit of the color on the top of it. So it makes it just a little bolder and more of the color that you're looking for, because you're actually changing its mixture. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is the color wheel. Now, the color wheel is basically my all-time go-to guide when mixing colors. So one thing that you may not know, which is a really cool hint for you trying to get realistic tones and colors, is if you mix your complementary colors, which are colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel, if you mix these two together, what you're going to get is a neutral color, and it's almost like kind of like a gray muddy color. It's like a gray color. It's a neutral color. So when would you want to use this? This is really great if you want to add shadows. Realistic shadows are fantastic by mixing your complementary colors together. So let's pretend that you have green grass and you have a tree, and the tree is casting a shadow, a drop shadow onto the ground. So what color is your grass? I said it was green. Now you might, if you're doing more realistic realistic kinds of grass colors, you're going to have different shades of green, probably all through the yellow and the blue, to get some different textures added to it. But if you want to create some nice shadows into your grass, you're just going to go across the color wheel and add just a fleck of red to your green paint. Mix it up, and what you're going to get is a really nice neutral color that will be a great color to add to your grass to make it look as though the tree above you is adding a cast shadow down to the ground. So color theory is just like one of those things that is so much fun and really interesting to like learn about. There's so many things that you can think about when you go into nature. And let me see if I can, sorry. So here's an example of the color recipe book, and it'll say exactly how much you should be adding and in what ratios. So say you wanted to make this type of yellow. You just zoom in, it has the recipe 5 parts white to 1 part cadmium yellow light. So another thing you might want to do is, like we were talking about the limited palette, I think it's really, really important to stick with a limited palette, because if you start adding more and more colors to your palette, you're just going to get this rainbow type of image where nothing really looks like it belongs in the same world. But if you're mixing your colors, like say you only do use 3 basic colors, say you're only using, well, let's give you a very specific example. When you print, you're using cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So those are the 3 colors that the printer uses to get all the, you know, interesting images that we get printed out, whatever. So if you think about it that way, how many color combinations can you get alone with cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, right? Like, it's truly amazing. So if that's a limited color palette, is basically that. Okay, so here I'm going to show you, they have a couple of examples of color combinations. I'm hoping this, let's get this to focus. Here we go. So we're talking about color combinations for skin tone. So a very basic mix that they have is yellow ochre and cadmium red light. And if you wanted to darken it, you add burnt umber, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, permanent blue, cobalt violet, and it shows you different ways to darken your colors for skin tone, okay? But yeah, this is a very basic mix, and if you only think about it, it's only 2 colors, yellow ochre and cadmium red light, right? So if they wanted to lighten it, you add zinc yellow, cadmium yellow light, Naples yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium orange, and to gray it down, you use white plus ultramarine blue. And what they're doing is just showing you a way to use the opposites on the color wheel as well. So it's a little bit dirty. Sorry about this. Let me see if I can get that off. Here are alternate base color mixtures. All right, so burnt sienna, cadmium red light. That looks fantastic for like a richer, like a beautiful, almost like a clay skin tone. This one is a little bit ruddier, a little bit red orange, and I'll just read them out to you. So we have burnt sienna, cadmium red light for this one. This one is a Naples yellow and cadmium vermilion, and we have burnt umber, cadmium vermilion here. So that's a darker skin tone, okay? Now it looks really dark on the screen, but let me see if I can zoom in, because it has such beautiful tone. It's not showing. I'm sorry, guys. All right, well, let's move on. So here's another example of a great palette for flesh tone, and I've actually tried this one out before on one of my paintings, and I really did like it. So what you do is you add your limited palette colors on the outside, and then you pull it in with your palette knife and start blending to get those colors in on the inside, okay? These greens, now something that people really have a hard time doing when painting realistic portraits is they forget how many colors are actually in the face. So how I was taught was, if you think about it this way, okay? Let's think of it in strips of color. So the top part, which is the forehead, is going to have more tones of yellow. The middle part right here, where we flush a lot, and you can even see it on myself, where like I got a little bit of sun or whatever, but also where you blush, is going to be a redder and pinker skin tone color. Blues are really great, and purples are really great to have, not only down here where the skin is naturally thinner and you're going to be able to see the blood vessels through the transparent skin, but I use blues and purples in all different places. Like you could even see it in like a little bit of my bags in here. You could even see blue in the white of the eyes. Even think about teeth. When you paint teeth white, I mean, in what world are teeth like super white unless like they're fake, right? So you want to make sure that you have like some blue tones and yellow tones and like some even like pink into like the gum area. Don't forget about the gums. Hold on, let me switch to the alternate scene so you can see what I'm doing. I mean, it's kind of like a little bit hard for me to do this with my own face, but whatever, I'm just using it as an example. So this is what I look like, okay? And if I was like doing a painting of myself like this, like check out the purples and the blue, and we have even greens and yellows and oranges right through here. Check out the blue shadow under here. Another thing you need to think about is highlights, these little parts of your skin that light up when you are moving around, right? Parts that stick out and get the most light, like the tip of your nose, right here in your cupid's bow, on your chin, and then also right here, because you're not going to just do a black line that separates your neck from here. You actually want a little bit of a highlight before you go into a neutral, darker color. And so what happens is when you think about highlights, it's not just strictly white. So you can kind of see here that this highlight does have, it's lighter, really light in color, but it's going to have a little bit of gray in it. It's going to have a little bit of pink in it. And right here, even a little bit of purple. So all these colors that go into skin tone is part of the fun of why I love to paint portraits, because I mean, I just think humans are incredibly gorgeous, incredibly beautiful, and one of the reasons why I love to travel is just because color is just such an important part of our who we are. Not only our skin tone, but the colors we choose to wear, and the colors we use to decorate our houses and our food and our music. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I know that I'm an artist and an art teacher, so you know, I definitely think this way about, you know, everything more so than probably the average person. But it's good to be appreciative of the world that we have around us, and fine tuning your eye to the colors that are around us is one of the hardest things about becoming a more advanced artist. Is when a beginner artist starts painting and they want to paint a picture of a person, they see my face and they say flesh tone. I mean, what is flesh tone? Like, I know what flesh tone is in a tube, and what it is like this weird, pretty like ugly color. It's like a yellow brown with a little bit of pink in it, and then white probably. It's just like this generic color of what they think flesh tone should be. And of course, like in a classroom in a pinch, it's great because then it'll be a great base tone to darken it, lighten it, make it a little bit more yellow or orangey, or like, you know, it's good in a pinch. But I would say if you have the time to really do it properly, just start with your limited palette, like the colors we talked about in this book. Pick up this book, pick up other books on Amazon. It's really worth your time. And I would say don't do the Kindle version, because as you can see in here, it's going to get messy. I mean, all these reference guides are fantastic. I think it's really important and really necessary to have books physically when it comes to art, so you can open it up, try it out, match it up to the sheet that you have. I think I'm getting totally off track now, but if you got this far, thank you, and I truly appreciate your time, and I know that you could be spending your time painting, so please let me know if you have any specific questions that I can help answer. This is my job, but this is what I love to do. This is what I'm incredibly passionate about, so it's really fun for me to help answer questions, because I learn from it too, and I'm not going to pretend like I know everything, because that's just insane. Nobody does. So I'm just gonna teach you what I know so far. Anyhow, I hope you have a really good day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.